Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. Essentially, this video is just to celebrate or underscore the most important event in our lifetimes is happening right now. Right now. President of China, Xi Jinping, and the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, are meeting in Moscow. Along with it is a flurry of love letters, awards, ceremonies, and a lot of ritual. What they're doing is underscoring and underlining the fact that the Russia-China alliance transcends anything that history has seen in the past. It is closer than you can even possibly imagine. They don't need to discuss military alignments. They don't need to say, well, he's aligned to they're aligned. They are of one thought, one concept, one idea. And leading up to this meeting, Quora was flooded. I never seen so many goddamn questions. When will China invade Russia? When will Russia invade China? Who will win? And this kind of stuff. I mean, there must have been like 500. Now, the purpose of troll bots and this kind of stuff is to control dialogue in an English-speaking world so that people have mass thoughts and they think certain things. They're easy to manipulate that way. And for some strange reason, the people who are running the government right now believe that by manipulating the thoughts of so many people, you actually change reality. No, it doesn't. It just changes the reality of people who are exposed to this. So anyway, so there's a massive flood of this stuff coming on. Didn't change the fact that China and Russia are now married. They're married. Back in 2022, February 4th, there was the initial document. I guess you could call it a prenup agreement. Or maybe you can call it an engagement where you slip on the ring. But in all events, right now what is going on is it's a new world, a multipolar world. And the United States ain't part of it. There will be some fallout from this stuff. There will be some complaints and there will be some this or that. But the fact is now, the United States at best mind its P's and Q's. It's pretty stupid right now. I mean, hopelessly demented is a compliment to compare to identify the idiots that are running the West right now. I mean, it boggles the mind that they're this incompetent, but they are. They got people there, that's like a couple years out of diapers trying to play diplomacy. It's ludicrous. So, the reason why I want to do this is I want to say this is the pivot moment. In a global, earth-shattering level of importance, this kind of event happens once every couple of millennia, not couple of centuries, not couple of decades. Happens. The last time anything this significant occurred was when Jesus Christ was nailed on the cross. Okay? That's how important this event is. The world has changed. Now you're going to probably ask me, what do I mean the world has changed? And let me explain it to you. Nations that we know them, as we know them today, have evolved. Back in the old days, thousands of years ago, the world was a lawless place, and people would come to nations and made them into big forts with enormous walls. Between these cities were maybe a couple small towns that were heavily policed by the city militia. And people would work on the farms or whatever, and they would give that city, who ran the government there, a percentage of whatever they made, and that was the tax. If you taxed them too high, they would revolt or they'd move away. So there was always this artificial limit placed upon it. And over time, after Genghis Khan started tearing down the cities and everything, new governments started coming up where they figured that they're not going to make walled cities that much anymore, but instead what they're going to do is create large standing armies on horses that can patrol and go on these towns. So you don't have to have a wall amongst the individual towns. Instead, what you can do is you can have a geographic region where your army would patrol. And that became known as a nation. But same as in the Middle Ages, they learned something very, very important, and that was you can only raise taxes so high before the peasants would revolt. And every time it passed a threshold, somewhere between 40% and 45%, the peasants revolted and the rulers were killed. So they had to come up with some other means of taxing the people. And so about this time, they also came up with this idea of currency and banks. And the idea behind this is the bank would lend you the money, okay, and they would control the value of the money. All right? So now suddenly, it wasn't you were paying the city 30% of your corn. Now you pay them in terms of this currency that you get for your corn. But the government controls that currency. So when they wanted to raise taxes, they just inflated the value of the money. So instead of paying 30%, they inflated the value. It's called inflation. And suddenly people were paying, in many cases, 60%, 70%, 80%, even 90% of their work and earnings. And of course, the banks got rich. That's why the buildings are all so nice. The governments got rich. That's why the government's so nice. And of course, the military grew and grew and grew. The elementary explanation, but basically that's what happened. So when you have a big, massive military empire like the United States is today, and you've got literally imbeciles running it, they're just squeezing this stuff as much oil and blood that they can get out of it. And the inflation rate is high because the tax rate is high because they're spending so much. Why are they spending so much? Well, they're spending so much on all kinds of this, and there's a lot of graft and corruption and all this stuff. Well, that's not sustainable, and there has to be a pivot point. Well, congratulations. Today is the pivot point. And the multipolar world, also known as the Global South, said that's enough. We're not going to use your fucking currency anymore. We're not going to ask you to defend us against some kind of imagined threats. And we know your games right now. We know about color revolutions. We know how you manipulate software. We know all this stuff that you're doing. And we've had it. We don't want anything. All we're going to do is we're just going to say goodbye and leave us be. But if you dare try to squeeze us, we are going to hit back, because now the Global South is unified. Iran, Saudi Arabia, China, Russia, South Africa, Brazil. The major players are high populations and represent the worth of the united globe. So one of the major lies that you get in the West from the United States, obviously, but throughout the West, is that the United States represents the whole world. It doesn't. It represents a portion of the English-speaking world, and not even a big portion. And culturally, the rest of the world has pretty much vomited up this LGBTQ stuff, Rainbow Coalition stuff, all this kind of stuff. They're pretty much traditional, and they want it to stay that way. And it's a non-interference policy. Whatever you do inside your country, nobody else shouldn't even mention it. If you want to commit genocide, that's your business. So no more. The rest of the world is saying, I don't want to hear you bad-mouthing that country or that country or that country and making all these accusations. Those days are over. We're just going to have our individual countries doing things their own individual ways, whether you like them or not, and that's tough titties if you can't handle it. And the rest of the world are signing up. So there's a lot of pomp and circumstance and a lot of ritual going on right now because the old world order, the American unipolar order, is dead. And I don't think they're aware of it. I don't think anybody in the United States watching the American news understands what's going on right now because it's not being reported. And with that in mind, people, take care, because there's only two options now on the table. Same old is not an option. They may try, but it's not an option. So there's two things that's going to happen. Either one, the United States kind of backs down, concentrates on its own problems, and the multipolar world grows. United States with it, United States without it, doesn't matter. Or United States flips the game board and says, let's destroy the whole world because I can't have my way, like some little baby throwing a temper tantrum. Those are the two options. And I will tell you, whether it's nuclear Armageddon, which is flipping the board, or whether it's the United States just going off on its own to become an elaborate Portugal, both of those fare badly for those people in the West. There will be winners and there will be losers, but there will be discomfort. So you can expect some discomfort. Preppers might say discomfort in this way and that way. I don't know, but there will be some discomfort and readjustments as the quality of life, the standard of life that Americans and the people in the West have been living to readjusts to a reality that you can't loot the rest of the world anymore. And the currency you're using and using to tax people is now going to start stabilizing to its actual value. And its actual value is going to be pretty low. And that's my comments for today. Take care, people, and every day, in every way, know that I believe in you. Don't be afraid of these events. It's a good thing. It's a very, very good thing. And why do I believe that you're going to do well? Because I believe in you. That's why. I believe that you, yes you, with all your crazy thoughts and your crazy life, are going to do just